The scent of aged paper and artisanal coffee always greeted Ilara first, a comforting embrace as she unlocked the door to the celestial nook. It was a symphony of aromas that spoke of quiet mornings and untold stories, a perfect prelude to the day ahead. Sunlight, still shy and pearly, spilled through the large bay window, illuminating dust motes dancing like tiny forgotten stars in the air. Ilara loved this hour before the town of Celestia Cove truly awoke, before the gentle hum of morning traffic or the chatter of early risers disturbed the peace. This was her time, a ritual of setting out her wares, carefully polished geodes that held the secrets of millennia, handcrafted silver pendants shaped like crescent moons and tiny constellations, and a fresh batch of her signature galactic glow tea blend, its subtle notes of lavender and chamomile promising serenity. The Celestial Nook wasn't just a shop. It was Ilara's universe. Every item curated, every book shelved, every constellation chart unfurled, was a piece of her heart. She'd inherited the shop from her eccentric, beloved grandmother, who had instilled in Ilara a profound reverence for the night sky. For as long as she could remember, Ilara had felt a kinship with the stars, seeing them not just as distant pinpricks of light, but as a vast, interconnected tapestry of dreams and destinies. Her own destiny, she often mused, seemed to be woven into the quiet rhythm of Celestia Cove. It was a charming town nestled between rolling hills and the sapphire expanse of the Atlantic, famous for its exceptionally clear night skies, a fact that had drawn astronomers and stargazers for generations. The town observatory, perched on the highest hill, was its proudest landmark, a beacon of scientific wonder. Ilara ran her fingers over a smooth obsidian scrying mirror, its surface reflecting the soft glow of the shop. She often wondered what reflections it might hold for her own future. At 28, her life was fulfilling in its own quiet way, but a part of her, a tiny, hopeful star within, yearned for something more. Not a grand adventure perhaps, but a profound connection, a kindred spirit to share the vastness of the cosmos with. Someone who saw the magic in the mundane, just as she did. She moved to the small coffee bar at the back, grinding beans with a rhythmic hum that filled the silence. Her thoughts drifted to the upcoming Starlight Festival, a cherished annual tradition in Celestia Cove. The observatory always hosted an open house, and the town square would be abuzz with vendors, musicians, and communal stargazing sessions. It was her busiest time, and also her favorite. The collective wonder of people gazing upwards, united by the infinite, always filled her with a unique joy. As the first customers began to trickle in, Mrs. Gable for her daily Earl Grey, and a chat about her prize-winning petunias, young Timmy from next door eager to see the new astronomy comics, Ilara slipped into her comfortable rhythm. Her smile was genuine, her voice soft and melodic, her recommendations always thoughtful. She had a knack for finding the perfect book for a curious mind, the ideal crystal for a troubled soul, or the most fitting star map for an aspiring navigator. Dr. Leo Maxwell was not a man given to whimsy. His world was one of precise calculations, logical deductions, and the cold, hard facts of astrophysics. He dealt in light years and gravitational waves, in the birth and death of galaxies. Whimsy, he'd always thought, was an inefficient use of brainpower. Yet, here he was, in Celestia Cove, a town that seemed to practically hum with the stuff. The air smelled of salt and wildflowers, not the sterile scent of the labs he was used to. The buildings were painted in cheerful, improbable colors, a lilac bakery, a mint green hardware store. And the people, they seemed to move at a slower, more deliberate pace, their eyes often tilted upwards, even in daylight. Leo had arrived 2 days ago, a whirlwind of crates and scientific equipment, tasked with overseeing the installation of the new Orion telescope at the Celestia Cove Observatory. It was a monumental project, a state-of-the-art instrument designed to peer further into the origins of the universe than ever before. He lived and breathed this work, and the weight of its success rested squarely on his shoulders. He was currently wrestling with a particularly stubborn schematic, his brow furrowed in concentration. One of the local engineers had mentioned that some obscure, historical star charts might be helpful for understanding the observatory's older systems, which the new Orion would need to interface with. "There's a little place in town, the Celestial Nook," the engineer had cheerfully offered. The owner, Alara, she knows everything about the stars, from scientific to, well, mystical. He'd chuckled. Mystical. Leo stifled a sigh. He needed facts, not nebulous interpretations. Still, if it helped the project, he would investigate. He pulled out his phone, typed in the address, and set off. The celestial nook was easy to spot, its sky-blue exterior adorned with painted stars and moons, a small hand-carved sign swinging gently in the breeze. A faint, sweet scent drifted from within, something like cinnamon and bergamot, utterly unlike any lab he'd ever been in. He pushed open the door, a chime tinkling softly above his head, and stepped into a world that felt entirely alien. Shelves overflowed with books, not just scientific texts, but volumes with titles like Cosmic Folklore and Astrology for Beginners. There were glittering stones, intricate metalwork, and what looked like a miniature galaxy suspended in glass. It was beautiful, undeniably, but also utterly overwhelming. A woman emerged from behind a tall bookshelf, a small, delicate figure framed by the soft light. Her hair, the color of rich earth, was pulled back in a loose braid, and her eyes, the shade of warm honey, held a quiet intelligence. She wore a simple, flowing dress that seemed to shimmer with faint, silver threads, like captured starlight. "Welcome to the Celestial Nook," she said, her voice a gentle melody. "Can I help you find anything?" Leo, usually so self-assured in his own domain, found himself momentarily tongue-tied. He felt a ridiculous flush creep up his neck. Yes," he managed, clearing his throat. "I'm looking for some star charts. Specifically older ones. Perhaps local ones, if you have them." Her eyes, observing and calm, seemed to take in his slightly disheveled appearance, his practical sturdy shoes, the faint smudges of grease on his work shirt, the intense focus in his gaze. "Older star charts," she repeated, a small, thoughtful smile playing on her lips. "You're not from around here, are you?" "No," he confirmed, feeling a faint defensiveness. "I'm Dr. Leo Maxwell. I'm with the observatory. We're installing the new Orion telescope." A flicker of recognition, and then genuine interest, lit her features. "Ah, the Orion project. We've all been hearing about it. It's quite the buzz around town." She extended a hand, her touch surprisingly warm and soft against his calloused palm. "It's a pleasure to finally meet one of the minds behind it." He found himself holding her hand a moment longer than strictly necessary, captivated by the unexpected grace of her presence. "Likewise," he murmured, pulling his hand back with a slight awkwardness. "So, about those charts." "Follow me," Alara said, turning and leading him deeper into the shop, past shelves laden with antique telescopes and glittering celestial mobiles. The air grew richer here, smelling faintly of sandalwood and old parchment. "We have a rather extensive collection. Are you looking for anything specific? Constellation maps, lunar cycles, planetary alignments?" "Mostly historical documentation of the local night sky," Leo explained, trying to sound professional and detached. "To cross-reference with some of the older observatory equipment. We're trying to integrate the new system without disrupting the existing infrastructure too much." Alara nodded, her expression serious. "A delicate balance, then, between the past and the future." She paused before a towering oak-paneled cabinet. "Grandmother always believed that to truly understand where we're going, we must first understand where we've been, especially when it comes to the stars." She opened a drawer, revealing dozens of rolled-up scrolls, each tied with a delicate ribbon. "These are some of the oldest. Many are hand-drawn by local astronomers dating back generations. They're not always scientifically precise, perhaps, but they hold a unique record of the sky as seen from Celestia Cove." Leo carefully unrolled one, his eyes widening. It was a beautifully rendered map of the Milky Way, hand-inked on vellum, with delicate annotations in a script he didn't recognize but understood to be painstaking. "These are incredible," he breathed, a rare note of wonder entering his voice. "More detailed than anything I could have hoped for. The engineers only mentioned generic charts, not these." Alara smiled, a gentle, knowing curve of her lips. "Grandmother had a way of collecting treasures. She always said the stars held stories, and these charts are just one way of reading them." She pulled out a few more. This one, for example, notes a particular meteor shower that was unusually bright over the cove in 1923. And this one details the shifting visibility of certain nebulae due to atmospheric conditions unique to our coastal area. Leo was utterly absorbed, his scientific mind delighting in the unexpected trove of data. He realized he was standing there, oblivious to the world, for what felt like ages. "These are exactly what I needed," he finally said, looking up, meeting Ilara's gaze. "Thank you. How much do I owe you?" "Oh, they're not for sale," Ilara replied, surprising him. "They're part of the shop's archival collection, but you're welcome to study them here, or I can make copies for you. I have a good scanner in the back." "You'd do that?" Leo asked, genuinely touched. He was used to red tape and bureaucratic hurdles, not such generous offers. "Of course," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "The more people who appreciate the stars, the better. Besides," she added, her eyes twinkling, "I'm rather excited about the Orion project myself. Anything that helps us understand the cosmos better is a good thing in my book." He felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling he rarely experienced outside the thrill of a successful experiment. "That's very kind of you, Ilara. Thank you. Perhaps," she suggested, "you could tell me a little about the Orion while I make the copies. I'm fascinated by what it will achieve." Leo, usually reserved, found himself agreeing without hesitation. He spent the next hour perched on a stool at her coffee bar, sipping a surprisingly delicious cosmic chai. She'd insisted he try it, while Ilara meticulously scanned the old charts. He found himself explaining the intricacies of the Orion telescope, the challenges of its construction, and the profound questions it hoped to answer about dark matter and the expansion of the universe. He spoke with an intensity he usually reserved for academic conferences, but Ilara listened with an attentiveness that was both flattering and disarming. Her questions were insightful, not just technically but also philosophically, touching on the sheer wonder of it all. He found himself articulating concepts in ways he never had before, simplifying complex ideas not out of condescension, but out of a genuine desire to share his passion with someone who truly appreciated it. When the last chart was scanned and the digital files transferred to his USB drive, the shop was nearing closing time. The light outside had mellowed to a soft, golden hue. "Thank you again, Ilara," Leo said, standing up, feeling lighter than he had in days. "These charts are invaluable, and the chai was excellent." "My pleasure, Dr. Maxwell," she replied, her smile radiant. "Come by any time if you need more, or just for another chai." "Leo," he corrected, a small, uncharacteristic smile gracing his lips. "Please, call me Leo." "Leo," she repeated, the name sounding warm and friendly on her tongue. "And I'm Ilara." As he walked out, the chime above the door announcing his departure, Leo felt a strange sense of something shifting within him. He was still a man of science, but the quiet magic of the celestial nook and the luminous presence of Ilara had undeniably stirred something in his precise, logical world. He found himself looking up at the sky, not just calculating angles and light pollution, but wondering what stories the stars held, and if, perhaps, one of them might be waiting for him. "Me." Ilara watched him go, a faint blush warming her cheeks. "Dr. Leo Maxwell, Andy." He was tall, perhaps a little too serious, with kind eyes that held a surprising depth when he spoke of the stars. His passion for astrophysics was palpable, a mirror to her own, albeit viewed through a different lens. He was grounded, analytical, yet she had seen a spark of genuine wonder in him as he'd unrolled the ancient charts. She tidied the shop, her movements slower than usual, her mind replaying their conversation. He was so different from the usual Celestia Cove residents, with their easygoing charm and familiarity. Leo was a man of the wider universe, a scientist pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. And yet, he had seemed utterly captivated by her grandmother's old hand-drawn maps. A tiny hopeful flutter stirred in Ilara's chest. For so long, she had poured her heart into the stars, finding solace and inspiration in their silent majesty. She had often wished for someone to share that profound connection with, someone who understood the language of the cosmos, even if they spoke a different dialect. She realized she was smiling. A genuine, unbidden smile. The Starlight Festival was just around the corner. She wondered if Leo would attend, if he would see the stars from the town square, surrounded by people, rather than through the cold, precise lens of his new telescope. She hoped he would. She hoped she would see him again, not just as a customer seeking information, but as someone who might, just might, see the stardust between them, waiting to ignite. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of lavender and fiery orange, Ilara stepped out onto her small porch, the cool evening air a balm against her skin. Above, the first stars were beginning to prick the darkening canvas. She raised her grandmother's small brass telescope to her eye, adjusting the focus. A familiar comfort settled over her as she found Jupiter, a luminous pearl in the velvet black. But tonight, her thoughts were not solely on the gas giant's swirling storms. They kept drifting to a certain astrophysicist, to the unexpected warmth of his hand, and the quiet intensity in his gaze. The universe, it seemed, was full of more wonders than even she, a lifelong stargazer, had ever truly anticipated. And perhaps, just perhaps, some of those wonders were about to unfold right here, in Celestia Cove. The gentle hum of the old house was a familiar lullaby as Ilara moved through the living room, the memory of Jupiter's distant glow still a vibrant image behind her eyelids. She untangled herself from the thick wool blanket she'd wrapped around herself, folding it neatly over the back of her worn armchair. The scent of pine needles from the small decorative wreath on the mantel mingled with the faint, sweet aroma of the chamomile tea she'd forgotten on the side table. Everything in her little cottage felt utterly predictable, utterly hers. Yet tonight, there was a new current rippling beneath the surface of that predictability, a whisper of something exhilaratingly unknown. Eris Thorne. The name alone brought a soft smile to her lips, a flutter she hadn't felt since she'd been a girl discovering the constellations for the first time. He was an enigma, wrapped in tweed and starlight, with eyes that held the depth of the cosmos and a smile that seemed to warm the very air around him. The way he'd explained the nuances of gravitational lensing, his voice, a low, resonant murmur in the cool night air, had been nothing short of captivating. And then, that unexpected touch, his hand brushing hers as he pointed to a distant cluster, a jolt of pure, unadulterated awareness that had shot through her. It was a simple touch, yet it had ignited a spark in the quiet corners of her heart she hadn't realized were lying dormant. She climbed the narrow stairs, each creak a familiar sound, and slipped into her nightgown, a soft, well-worn cotton that smelled faintly of lavender. Lying in bed, she stared up at the ceiling, not counting sheep, but replaying snippets of their conversation, the way his dark hair had fallen across his brow, the slight crinkle at the corners of his eyes when he'd laughed at her anecdote about a particularly persistent local seagull attempting to steal her breakfast pastry. He wasn't just brilliant, he was kind, and he listened with an attentiveness that made her feel, for the first time in a long time, truly seen. The next morning, Ilara woke with a sense of anticipation she hadn't felt in years. The sun, a pale gold, was already filtering through her bedroom window, painting stripes across the oak floorboards. She made her usual pot of strong coffee, the aroma filling the small kitchen, and toasted a slice of sourdough, spreading it with homemade blackberry jam. But her mind wasn't entirely on her breakfast. It kept drifting to the Celestia Cove Observatory, to the chance encounter she might have with Eris, to the myriad possibilities that lay ahead. Her role at the Celestia Cove Museum of Maritime History usually kept her grounded, surrounded by the tangible echoes of the past, weathered fishing nets, antique sextants, and the scent of salt and old wood. It was a world away from the theoretical physics and cosmic distances Aries inhabited, and yet, there was a shared sense of wonder, a reverence for discovery, that bridged their separate passions. As she walked to the museum, the crisp morning air carried the scent of the sea and the distant cry of gulls. Celestia Cove was slowly waking up, fishing boats chugging out of the harbor, the lighthouse beam still sweeping its arc across the horizon, a steadfast guardian. She loved this town, every cobblestone street and quaint storefront. It was a place where time felt a little slower, a little more deliberate, a perfect haven for a woman who found solace in both history and the stars. She spent the morning meticulously cataloging a new donation, a collection of old navigational charts, some dating back to the late 18th century. The intricate lines and faded ink spoke of intrepid journeys across uncharted waters, mirroring, in a way, the celestial maps Iris studied. She found herself smiling, imagining the thrill of discovery, whether it was a new trade route or a distant galaxy. Just as she was about to break for lunch, a shadow fell across the doorway. She looked up, her heart giving a peculiar little lurch. Standing there, framed by the bright sunlight, was Eris. He was dressed in a dark jumper and trousers, looking less formal than the night before, but no less striking. A faint blush crept up her neck. "Elara," he said, his voice a warm baritone. "Good morning. I hope I'm not interrupting." "Eris, no, not at all," she replied, quickly standing, a stray piece of parchment fluttering from her lap. "Just finishing up with some charts. What brings you to the museum?" He stepped further into the room, his eyes scanning the exhibits with a genuine curiosity. "I was on my way to the general store for some supplies, and I confess the lure of history was too strong to resist. I saw your light on." He gestured vaguely towards her office. "I figured you'd be here. I wanted to thank you again for the tour of the night sky yesterday. It was truly magnificent." "It was my pleasure," Elara said, her voice softer than she intended. "I always enjoy sharing the view from my little perch. It's not often I have someone with whom I can discuss the finer points of the Orion Nebula's stellar nurseries." He chuckled, a low, pleasant sound. "Indeed, though I suspect your knowledge of the constellations far outstrips my own, I tend to focus more on what's between the stars, the dark matter, the gravitational anomalies." He paused, his gaze meeting hers, a flicker of that quiet intensity she remembered. "But you have a way of bringing the celestial sphere to life that's quite unique. It made me look at Jupiter differently." Elara felt a thrill at his words. To know she had influenced his perspective, even slightly, was a profound compliment. "And you, Dr. Thorne, make the unseen forces of the universe feel almost tangible. I confess, I found myself pondering dark energy over my morning coffee." He smiled, a genuine, open smile that reached his eyes. "Please, call me Eris, and I'm glad to hear I've expanded your cosmic horizons. In fact, that's partly why I stopped by. I was wondering, the observatory is having an open house next Saturday. It's mostly for the local community, a chance to show them what we're working on, but also to drum up a little support for some equipment upgrades. We'll have a few telescopes set up, some presentations. I was hoping you might consider attending." "And an open house?" Elara's eyes lit up. "I'd love to, Eris. I haven't been inside the observatory since they finished the renovations." "Excellent," he said, and she could sense his relief. "I'll be giving a short talk on exoplanets, and some of my colleagues will be covering other topics. Perhaps you could even share some of your stargazing wisdom with the visitors? A brief introduction to the constellations visible that night, perhaps?" He looked a little hesitant, as if unsure of his request. "Me?" Elara was surprised, but a spark of excitement ignited within her. "Oh, I don't know, Eris. I'm no astrophysicist. But you are an educator, Elara, and you have a passion for the night sky that is truly infectious. I think the community would respond wonderfully to your perspective. My colleagues, bless their brilliant minds, can sometimes get lost in the equations. You have a way of making it accessible, beautiful even." His earnestness was disarming. She imagined standing before a small group, sharing the stories etched into the stars, the myths and legends alongside the scientific facts. It was a daunting thought, but also exhilarating. "Well," she began, a shy smile playing on her lips, "if you truly think it would be helpful, I'd be honored to assist." "Wonderful." Eris's smile widened, radiating a warmth that filled the dusty museum office. "Thank you, Elara. That would be a huge help. I'll send you the details. Maybe we could even meet up a day or two before to coordinate." "I'd like that very much," she said, her heart doing another quiet flutter. The open house, coordinating with him, the possibility of spending more time together, it was all unfolding far more beautifully than she could have anticipated. He stayed for another half hour, wandering through the museum, asking insightful questions about the artifacts, genuinely interested in the stories of Celestia Cove's past. He seemed to possess an insatiable curiosity, a thirst for knowledge that mirrored her own, albeit in different domains. They talked about the cyclical nature of history, the way ancient mariners used the stars for navigation, connecting their seemingly disparate worlds with invisible threads of shared human endeavor. As he finally took his leave, promising to email her the details for the open house, Alara felt a lightness in her step she hadn't experienced in years. The museum, usually a place of quiet reflection, now hummed with a new energy. The rest of the week passed in a delightful blur of anticipation. Alara found herself doing extra research on constellations, not just for her own enjoyment, but with an eye towards her brief presentation at the observatory. She wanted to make it special, to weave together the ancient tales with the modern scientific understanding, just as Aris had suggested. His email arrived promptly, outlining the open house schedule and suggesting they meet for coffee on Thursday afternoon to discuss their respective roles. Alara's heart gave a little leap when she read the last line. Looking forward to it, Alara. Thursday arrived, bright and clear. Alara chose a soft moss green sweater that brought out the color of her eyes and a comfortable pair of jeans. She walked to the Salty Siren, Celestia Cove's only coffee shop, feeling a nervous excitement bubbling within her. Eris was already there, sitting at a small table by the window, a steaming mug in front of him, a book open beside it. He looked up as she approached, his face breaking into a warm smile. "Alara," he greeted, standing as she reached the table. "You're punctual, as expected. And you, Eris, are already immersed," she teased, gesturing to his book. "What cosmic mysteries are you unraveling today?" He chuckled, closing the book. "Just a bit of light reading on quantum mechanics, nothing too heavy for a Thursday afternoon." He gestured to the empty chair. "Please, have a seat. I've already ordered your usual chamomile, right?" Alara's eyebrows rose in surprise. "You remembered?" "Of course," he said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "You mentioned it the other night." A small, intimate warmth spread through her. It was a small detail, but it spoke volumes about his attentiveness. "Thank you, Aris. That was thoughtful." Their coffees arrived, and they settled into an easy conversation. They began by discussing the open house, outlining their presentations. Aris described his talk on exoplanets with an infectious enthusiasm, his hands moving expressively as he spoke of distant worlds and the search for life beyond Earth. Alara found herself utterly captivated, drawn into the vastness of his knowledge. "And for my part," she said, "I was thinking of starting with the familiar, Polaris, the Big Dipper, and then weaving in some of the myths, like Cassiopeia and Andromeda, before talking about how those ancient observations laid the groundwork for modern astronomy, a bridge between the human story and the scientific pursuit." Aris listened intently, nodding his head. "That's perfect, Alara. Absolutely perfect. It's exactly what we need. It grounds the abstract, makes it relatable. You have a gift for storytelling. And you, Aris, have a gift for making the universe feel a little less intimidating," she countered, meeting his gaze. "You make the impossible seem within reach." Their eyes held for a moment, a silent current flowing between them, a recognition of shared passion and mutual admiration. The air in the coffee shop seemed to hum with a subtle energy. They moved on from the open house details, the conversation flowing effortlessly, like a long-practiced duet. They talked about their respective paths, what drew them to their fields. Alara spoke of her grandmother, a fierce and intelligent woman who had first introduced her to the constellations, teaching her to navigate by the stars on their small sailboat. "She taught me that the universe wasn't just out there. It was within us, too, a constant source of wonder and perspective." Aris, in turn, shared a glimpse into his own past. "My parents were both academics, always surrounded by books and equations. I suppose it was inevitable I'd end up in a similar field. But for me, it wasn't just the pursuit of knowledge. It was the sheer poetry of it all. The elegance of the laws governing the cosmos, the silent dance of gravity and light. It felt like uncovering the universe's most beautiful secrets." "And what brought you to Celestia Cove, Aris?" Alara asked gently, sensing a deeper story behind his arrival. He paused, swirling the coffee in his mug. "A new project, primarily. The observatory here has some unique equipment, perfect for the particular research I'm conducting on dark matter distribution in galactic halos, but also a change of pace. London, where I was based, can be quite stimulating. Celestia Cove offers a different kind of stimulation, a quieter, more profound one. He looked out the window, at the fishing boats bobbing in the harbor. It's a place where you can hear yourself think, hear the universe whisper. There was a hint of something unspoken in his words, a quiet melancholy that Alara recognized. Perhaps a past relationship, a demanding environment, a need for solitude. She didn't press, allowing the moment to hang, offering silent understanding. It certainly has that effect, she agreed softly. It has a way of putting things into perspective, doesn't it? The vastness of the ocean, mirroring the vastness of space. He turned back to her, a grateful warmth in his eyes. Exactly. And your museum, your work, it grounds that perspective. It reminds me of the human journey, our tireless quest to understand our place in the cosmos, whether by charting seas or mapping galaxies. They spent another hour talking, the sun beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Alara felt a profound sense of connection, a rare and precious thing. With Eris, she felt she could truly be herself, her quirky, star-struck self, and he met her with an equal measure of genuine curiosity and intellectual passion. As they finally rose to leave, Eris walked her back towards the museum. The air was cooler now, carrying the salty tang of the low tide. "Thank you, Alara," he said, stopping outside the museum's heavy oak door. "This was a truly pleasant afternoon. More productive than I anticipated." He smiled, a hint of self-deprecation in his tone. "And for me," she replied, her gaze lingering on his. "I'm genuinely looking forward to Saturday." "As am I," he said, his voice a low murmur. He hesitated for a moment, then reached out, his fingers gently brushing her arm, a familiar spark igniting at his touch. "Until then." He turned and walked away, his figure receding down the street, and Alara watched until he was out of sight. The warmth of his touch lingered on her skin, a soft imprint of a budding connection. She unlocked the museum door, stepping inside, the scent of old wood and salt air embracing her. But tonight, the familiar comfort of the museum felt subtly altered, infused with the quiet echo of his presence, the promise of shared stars and expanding horizons. The days leading up to the open house were filled with a nervous energy that hummed beneath Alara's usual calm. She practiced her brief talk, imagining Eris in the audience, and meticulously planned her outfit, wanting to strike a balance between professional and approachable. She chose a dark blue dress, reminiscent of the twilight sky, and a silver necklace with a tiny star pendant that her grandmother had given her. Saturday arrived, a perfectly clear, crisp autumn evening. The kind of night astronomers dreamed of. Alara arrived at the observatory a little early, the dome gleaming against the deepening indigo sky. Volunteers bustled about, setting up tables with brochures and refreshments. The air thrummed with excitement. Eris met her at the entrance, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Alara, you look radiant and perfectly in theme." He gestured to her star necklace. She felt a blush rise. "Thank you, Eris. You look quite dashing yourself." He was wearing a smart dark suit jacket over a crisp white shirt, a stark contrast to his usual academic tweed, and it suited him immensely. "Come," he said, his hand gently touching her elbow, guiding her through the growing crowd. "Let me show you where we'll be. Your talk will be in the smaller lecture hall, just before mine." He led her to a cozy lecture room, complete with a projector and comfortable seating. "I'll be introducing you," he explained, "and then I'll be right here in the front row cheering you on." His smile was reassuring, easing some of her nerves. As the doors opened to the public, the observatory quickly filled with eager faces, families with children, local residents, even a few tourists. The main dome buzzed with activity, telescopes pointed skyward, scientists explaining the wonders of the cosmos. Alara's turn came, and as Eris introduced her, his voice warm and encouraging, she felt a surge of confidence. She walked to the podium, taking a deep breath, and began to speak of the stars, of Polaris and the ancient mariners, of Cassiopeia's vain queen and Andromeda's chained beauty, weaving in the science of stellar evolution and galactic distances. She spoke from the heart, her passion for the night sky shining through, and the audience seemed utterly enchanted. She could see Eris in the front row, his gaze fixed on her, a genuine smile on his face, and it gave her an unexpected strength. When she finished, there was a warm round of applause. Eris was the first to stand, his applause ringing out, and she met his eyes, a shared triumph passing between them. He then took the stage, his talk on exoplanets equally captivating, filled with breathtaking images of distant worlds and the tantalizing possibility of life beyond Earth. He made the complex science accessible, drawing the audience into the thrilling quest for new frontiers. After their presentations, they mingled with the crowd, answering questions, sharing stories. Elara found herself naturally gravitating towards Eris, their conversations flowing easily, their presence together a comfortable, familiar dance. They moved as a unit, complementing each other, one grounding the celestial with the human, the other expanding the human with the celestial. Later, as the crowds began to thin, and the last stragglers peered through the powerful telescopes, Eris found Elara gazing out at the night sky from the observatory's viewing platform. The air was cool, crisp, and the stars blazed with an intensity that only truly dark skies could offer. "You were brilliant tonight, Elara," he said, his voice soft, standing beside her. "Truly, you captivated everyone." "And you, Eris, were equally inspiring," she replied, turning to him. "You made the universe feel a little smaller, a little more welcoming." He leaned against the railing, his gaze sweeping across the Milky Way, a faint luminous band across the heavens. "It's nights like these that remind me why I do what I do. That sense of shared wonder." "Shared wonder," Elara echoed, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes, that's precisely it." She paused and added, "You know, seeing everyone's faces tonight, especially the children's, reminded me of my grandmother. She always said that the greatest gift you could give someone was a new way of seeing the world." Eris turned to her, his eyes reflecting the distant starlight. "Your grandmother sounds like a remarkable woman." "She was," Elara confirmed, a fond memory softening her features. "She taught me that the universe isn't just out there, it's a part of us. We're made of stardust, after all." He smiled, a genuine, tender smile that reached the depths of his eyes. "Indeed we are. And some stardust, it seems, aligns more beautifully than others." His words hung in the crisp night air, a delicate bridge built between them. Elara felt her heart quicken, a warmth spreading through her chest that had nothing to do with the cool night and everything to do with the man standing beside her. The unspoken sentiment, the gentle confession in his tone, was unmistakable. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, just watching the stars, the vastness of the cosmos stretching out before them, a silent witness to the subtle unfolding of their connection. The open house was winding down, the last of the volunteers were packing up, and the observatory was slowly returning to its quiet, scientific hum. "Would you mind," Eris finally broke the silence, his voice a low murmur, "if I walked you home, Elara? It's a beautiful night for a stroll." Elara turned to him, her heart filled with a quiet joy. "I'd like that very much, Eris." As they descended from the observatory and began their walk through the quiet streets of Celestia Cove, the only sounds were their footsteps and the distant murmur of the ocean. The stars above seemed to shine even brighter, illuminating their path. Elara felt a sense of profound peace and burgeoning happiness. The universe, indeed, was full of more wonders than she had ever anticipated, and some of them, she realized, were just beginning to shine, right here, in the heart of Celestia Cove. The journey had just begun. The soft glow of the streetlights, thoughtfully spaced to minimize light pollution, cast long, dancing shadows of the palm trees that lined the main street. Elara found herself walking closer to Liam than she had realized, their arms occasionally brushing, sending a faint tingle through her. The air was cool, and carried the invigorating scent of salt and eucalyptus, a signature perfume of Celestia Cove at night. "That was truly special, Liam," Elara said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. She looked up at him, her eyes still sparkling with the residual wonder of the cosmos. Liam smiled, a genuine easy warmth radiating from him. "It always is for me, but seeing it through your eyes, Elara, made it feel new again, like rediscovering an old friend." His gaze lingered on hers for a moment, and Elara felt a blush creep up her neck, a pleasant warmth that mirrored the feeling in her chest. "I haven't felt that sense of pure awe in a long time," she admitted softly, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "My work is so precise, so focused on data and analysis, that sometimes I forget the sheer poetry of it all. That's the beauty of it, isn't it?" Liam mused, his voice a low, comforting rumble. The intricate science and the boundless poetry, intertwined. They don't negate each other, they enhance, like the structure of a sonnet and the emotion it conveys. Elara nodded, a thoughtful hum escaping her lips. I've always admired that about you, Liam. Your ability to bridge the analytical with the emotional. It's a rare gift. She wondered if she was being too forward, but the words felt honest, a natural outflow of the evening's magic. He chuckled softly. Perhaps it's just years of trying to explain black holes to bewildered tourists. You learn to make it relatable, to find the human story in the cosmic narrative. He paused, then his tone softened. But I think you have that gift too, Elara. There's a quiet passion in your precision, a deep reverence for the universe in your pursuit of its truths. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, moving from the mysteries of the cosmos to the smaller, more personal mysteries of their lives. Liam spoke of his childhood, growing up in a bustling city but always drawn to the quiet majesty of the night sky, finding solace and inspiration in its endless expanse. He shared how the opportunity to direct the Celestia Cove Observatory had felt like a dream come true, a chance to combine his scientific passion with a desire to foster community engagement and education. Elara, in turn, found herself opening up, something she rarely did with such ease. She spoke of her early fascination with a dusty astronomy book she'd found in her grandmother's attic, of the countless nights spent with a small telescope in her backyard, tracing constellations and dreaming of distant galaxies. She confessed to the quiet solitude that often accompanied her research, the long hours spent sifting through data, and the occasional pang of loneliness despite the vastness of the universe she studied. Celestia Cove has been a welcome change, she admitted, gazing at the quaint storefronts they passed, their windows softly lit. It's a different kind of quiet, a comforting quiet, filled with the promise of the ocean and the stars, and kind people. Her gaze flickered to Liam, a silent acknowledgement of his role in that comfort. They reached the charming little cottage Elara was renting, nestled among fragrant jasmine vines. A warm, inviting light spilled from her living room window. They paused at her gate, the moment stretching, imbued with a gentle reluctance to part. The air seemed to hold its breath, the distant ocean waves providing a rhythmic counterpoint to the quiet thrum of their hearts. Well, Liam said, his hands casually tucked into his pockets, but his eyes were fixed on hers. This is you. It is, Elara confirmed, her voice a little breathy. She wanted to invite him in, but something held her back, a desire to savor the anticipation, to let this burgeoning feeling ripen naturally. Thank you, Liam, for tonight, for everything. My pleasure, truly, he replied, taking a step closer. The scent of his subtle cologne, a hint of cedar and fresh air, wafted towards her. I really enjoyed our talk, Elara, and getting to know you better. He hesitated, then reached out, his fingers gently brushing her arm, a fleeting touch that sent shivers down her spine. I hope we can do it again soon. I'd like that very much, she said, her voice barely a whisper. She met his gaze, a silent promise passing between them. A slow smile spread across Liam's face, making his eyes crinkle at the corners. Good, I'll text you tomorrow. Please do, Elara replied, her heart doing a little flip. With a final, lingering look, Liam turned and began to walk away, his silhouette gradually receding into the starlit night. Elara watched him until he was out of sight, then, with a soft sigh of contentment, she unlocked her gate and stepped inside her cottage. The air inside felt different, somehow lighter, infused with the warmth of shared laughter and whispered confidences. She leaned against the closed door, a dreamy smile playing on her lips. The universe had indeed revealed a new wonder tonight, one far closer than any distant galaxy. When? The next morning, Elara awoke to the sound of seagulls crying overhead and the gentle rhythm of waves on the shore. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. For the first time in a long time, she didn't immediately reach for her laptop or her research notes. Instead, she lay there, a soft smile gracing her lips as she replayed snippets of the previous night. Liam's quiet intensity as he spoke of the stars, the warmth of his smile, the gentle touch on her arm. It all felt wonderfully real, a tangible thread of happiness woven into the fabric of her day. She eventually rose, feeling a lightness in her step as she made coffee and sat on her small porch, gazing out at the cerulean expanse of the ocean. The world seemed brighter, more vibrant. Her phone buzzed, startling her slightly. It was a text from an unknown number. Good morning, Alara. Hope you slept well after our cosmic adventure. Liam. A rush of warmth flooded her. She typed back quickly, a little more eagerly than she usually would. Good morning, Liam? I did. Thank you. Still buzzing from all the starlight. You too, I hope. 1. His reply came almost instantly. Kevin is still buzzing. Thinking about that nebula. And our conversation. Any chance you're free for a coffee or a walk on the beach later today? I'm off duty until tomorrow evening. Ilara's heart did another little skip. I'd love that. How about late morning? Around 11? I know a charming little place called the Salty Siren, right by the pier. Way. Perfect. See you there, Ilara. 1. A delightful flutter of anticipation settled in her stomach. She spent the next hour tidying her cottage, picking out a breezy sundress, and even humming a cheerful tune, a rarity for her. The Salty Siren was a small independent coffee shop, known for its artisanal brews and homemade pastries, and its prime location overlooking the bustling pier. It was a place she often visited for quiet contemplation, but today, she was looking forward to sharing it with someone. When she arrived, Liam was already there, seated at a small outdoor table, nursing a cup of coffee. He looked relaxed and handsome in a simple linen shirt and khaki shorts. He stood as she approached, his smile immediately warming her. Ilara, good morning again, he greeted, pulling out a chair for her. You look lovely. Thank you, Liam, she replied, feeling her cheeks flush slightly. You too. This place is wonderful, isn't it? They ordered their drinks. Ilara opted for an iced latte, Liam a robust black coffee, and settled into easy conversation. They talked about their respective work, finding common ground in the challenges of securing funding for research and the joys of scientific discovery. Liam shared anecdotes about the eccentricities of some of Celestia Cove's longtime residents, who were passionate amateur astronomers, and Ilara found herself laughing freely, a sound she realized she hadn't indulged in nearly enough lately. So, what brought you to Celestia Cove specifically? Liam asked, leaning forward slightly, his elbows resting on the table. I know you're on a research sabbatical, but why here, of all places? Ilara took a sip of her latte, considering. It was a bit of an impulse, actually. My grant proposal for the dark matter mapping project was approved, and I needed a place with minimal light pollution and a robust astronomical community for collaboration. Celestia Cove kept popping up in my searches, and when I saw the observatory and read about its history, it just felt right. A gut feeling, I suppose. It just felt right. A gut feeling, I suppose. She paused, a wistful note entering her voice. I've always been drawn to places that feel a little removed from the hustle, places where the silence speaks volumes. I understand that completely, Liam said, his eyes reflecting a similar sentiment. I grew up in Chicago. While I loved the energy, I always craved this kind of quiet. The kind where you can actually hear yourself think, hear the ocean breathe. He gestured towards the sparkling water. And where you can see the stars in their full glory. Their conversation meandered from their pasts to their dreams for the future. Ilara spoke of her ambition to contribute meaningfully to the understanding of the universe, to unravel its darkest secrets. Liam shared his vision for the observatory, not just as a research facility, but as a beacon of scientific literacy and wonder for the wider community, especially for children. I want to inspire the next generation of stargazers, he explained, his eyes alight with passion. To show them that science isn't just about textbooks and formulas, but about wonder, curiosity, and the boundless human spirit of exploration. Ilara found herself deeply moved by his sincerity. That's a beautiful mission, Liam, and I think you're already doing it. She thought of the wonder she'd felt last night, the way he had guided her gaze to the heart of the galaxy. They spent the rest of the morning strolling along the pier, watching fishing boats bob gently in the harbor, and listening to the cries of the gulls. Liam pointed out various constellations that would be visible later that night, and Ilara shared fascinating facts about them, translating complex astronomical phenomena into easily digestible, poetic descriptions. There was a comfortable rhythm to their companionship, a sense of ease that felt both natural and exhilarating. As the sun began to climb higher, they decided to part ways, promising to meet again soon. "How about dinner sometime this week?" Liam suggested, his hand gently touching her arm as they stood near her cottage gate. "I know a fantastic little Italian place just outside town, run by a sweet old couple. Best pasta you'll ever taste." "I'd love that," Elara said, her smile wide and genuine. "Just let me know when." Liam's smile deepened, a warmth spreading through Elara that had nothing to do with the midday sun. "I will. And Elara, thank you again for this morning. It was exactly what I needed." "Me too, Liam. Me too." The following days unfolded with a quiet grace, each one weaving Liam and Elara's lives more closely together. Their dinner at Rosa's trattoria was a delightful affair, filled with laughter, delicious food, and even deeper revelations. Elara learned about Liam's brief stint studying art history before astronomy claimed his full attention, and he discovered Elara's secret passion for playing the piano, a hobby she'd almost entirely abandoned since her intense focus on her research. "You should play again," Liam encouraged, his voice soft. "Music, like the stars, is a language of the soul. It deserves to be heard." "Perhaps," she demurred, a shy smile playing on her lips. "If I ever find the time." They found themselves texting daily, sharing snippets of their day, funny observations, or interesting articles they'd come across. Elara, who usually found such casual communication distracting, looked forward to Liam's messages with a quiet eagerness. They became a comforting presence, a subtle thread connecting their busy lives. One sunny afternoon, Liam invited Elara to join him on a small expedition. "There's a hidden tide pool cove that's only accessible at low tide," he explained over the phone. "It's spectacular for spotting marine life, and it's incredibly peaceful. Would you be interested?" "That sounds wonderful," Elara replied, her voice filled with genuine enthusiasm. "What time?" They met at a secluded spot on the beach, Liam already there, carrying a small cooler and a couple of towels. He had a natural ease about him, a comfort in his own skin that Elara found increasingly appealing. They walked along the shoreline, the sand cool beneath their bare feet, the waves lapping gently at their ankles. "My grandmother used to bring me here when I was a boy," Liam shared, his gaze sweeping across the shimmering expanse of the ocean. "She taught me how to identify different shells, how to spot the subtle movements of crabs, how to listen to the ocean's stories." Elara listened, captivated. "She sounds like a wonderful woman." "She was," he said, a touch of wistfulness in his voice. "She always told me to look closer, whether at a tide pool or a constellation, to find the magic in the details." As they navigated the rocky path to the hidden cove, Liam offered Elara a steadying hand, his touch firm and reassuring. The cove itself was a marvel, a natural amphitheater of rock, sheltering crystal-clear pools, teeming with anemones, tiny fish, and vibrant starfish. They spent hours there, marveling at the miniature ecosystems, their conversation punctuated by exclamations of delight at a particularly colorful shell or a darting hermit crab. Liam, ever the educator, explained the various species they encountered, his knowledge extending far beyond the stars. Elara, in turn, found herself sharing insights about the interconnectedness of all natural systems, drawing parallels between the delicate balance of a tide pool and the vast, intricate dance of galaxies. Later, they sat on a smooth rock, sharing sandwiches and fresh fruit Liam had packed. The sun warmed their faces, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of the sea. Elara felt an unprecedented sense of contentment. It wasn't just the beauty of the place, but the effortless camaraderie they shared, the feeling of being truly seen and understood. "You know," Elara said, breaking a comfortable silence, "I used to think my world was entirely contained within my research. That true happiness came from unlocking cosmic secrets, from intellectual pursuit alone." She looked at Liam, a soft, vulnerable smile on her face. "But being here with you, it makes me realize there's so much more, so many other forms of wonder." Liam reached out, his fingers gently tracing the back of her hand. His touch was light, yet sent a wave of warmth through her. The universe is expansive, Elara, he said, his voice quiet but resonant. And it's meant to be explored, not just through a telescope, but with an open heart, with connection. He met her gaze, his eyes reflecting the vastness of the ocean and the depth of his own emotions. I think you're discovering a new kind of exploration. Elara's breath hitched slightly. The intensity of his gaze, the sincerity in his voice, spoke volumes. She squeezed his hand gently in return, a silent acknowledgement of the truth in his words. She felt a profound shift within her, a blossoming of emotions she hadn't known she was capable of. As the tide began to creep back in, they gathered their belongings, their hands brushing often, their smiles growing softer, more knowing. The journey back felt different, imbued with a new layer of unspoken understanding. A week later, Celestia Cove was abuzz with preparations for its annual Starry Nights Festival, a community event celebrating astronomy, local art, and music. Liam, as the director of the observatory, was deeply involved, coordinating guest speakers, setting up telescopes for public viewing, and organizing workshops for children. Elara, initially intending to observe from a distance, found herself drawn into the preparations, offering her expertise for a presentation on exoplanets and even helping Liam organize the volunteers. Working alongside him, Elara saw another side of Liam, his patient leadership, his infectious enthusiasm, his incredible ability to connect with people from all walks of life. He moved effortlessly between explaining complex scientific concepts to a group of eager teenagers and charming an elderly couple with tales of local folklore. Elara found herself admiring him more and more with each passing day. One evening, after a long day of setting up exhibits, they found themselves alone in the observatory dome, the giant telescope, silent and majestic, bathed in the soft, ambient glow of the town lights filtering in. Elara was reviewing her presentation slides on her tablet, while Liam checked the alignment of a smaller telescope. "You've been amazing, Elara," Liam said, turning to face her. "I don't know what I would have done without your help. You've brought such clarity and depth to everything." Elara looked up, a warm feeling spreading through her. "It's been a pleasure, Liam. And honestly, it's refreshing to engage with the public in this way. It reminds me why I fell in love with astronomy in the first place." She paused, then added, "It's also been lovely spending so much time with you." Liam walked over to her, his movements slow and deliberate. He stood before her, his gaze gentle and searching. "I feel the same way, Elara. More than lovely, it's profound." He reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek, his thumb stroking softly. "Every moment with you feels like a new discovery, like finding a new star in a familiar constellation." Elara leaned into his touch, her heart thrumming a rapid beat against her ribs. The air crackled with unspoken emotions, the weight of their growing affection palpable in the quiet dome. Her gaze flickered from his eyes to his lips, a silent invitation hanging in the air. Liam's eyes darkened, filled with a tenderness that made her breath catch. He leaned in slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, but Elara held her ground, her own anticipation mirroring his. His lips, soft and warm, met hers in a gentle, hesitant kiss. It was a kiss born of shared wonder, of deepening respect, of a connection that had been forged under the vastness of the cosmos and nurtured in the quiet charm of Celestia Cove. It was soft, sweet, and imbued with a promise that made Elara's soul sing. Her hands rose, finding purchase on his arms, holding him close. When they finally broke apart, it was with a soft sigh, their foreheads resting against each other. Elara's eyes fluttered open, meeting Liam's, which were filled with a mixture of awe and profound happiness. "Wow," Elara whispered, a smile blooming on her face. "That was more wonderful than any supernova." Liam chuckled softly, a rich, warm sound. "I think you might be right." He gently pulled her into a hug, holding her close, her head resting against his chest. She could hear the steady beat of his heart, a comforting rhythm that grounded her in the moment. "I have a confession," Liam murmured, his voice rumbling against her ear. "I've been falling for you, Elara, ever since that first night. Under the stars, watching you look at the nebula, I just knew." Elara pulled back slightly, looking up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears of joy. I think, I think I've been falling for you too, Liam. For your kindness, your passion, your way of seeing the world. The Starry Nights Festival began the next day. A vibrant celebration that brought the entire town to life. Elara and Liam moved through it as a unit, their hands finding each other naturally, their smiles for one another a little softer, a little more intimate than for anyone else. They presented their segments, guided visitors through the telescopes, and shared in the collective joy of discovery. That night, as the festival wound down, they found themselves on a secluded hill overlooking the town, the air filled with the distant strains of folk music and the gentle murmur of the ocean. Above them, the sky was a breathtaking tapestry of stars, rendered even more brilliant by the careful light pollution control of Celestia Cove. Liam had brought a blanket, and they lay side by side, gazing up at the heavens. He pointed out constellations, told ancient myths, and Elara added scientific details, weaving a rich tapestry of knowledge and wonder. It was a perfect blend of their worlds, a beautiful symphony of science and soul. Remember what you said that first night about the journey just beginning? Elara murmured, her voice soft. I think I'm starting to understand what that journey truly entails. Liam turned his head, looking at her, his profile outlined by the starlight. And what do you think that is, Elara? She smiled, a peaceful, contented smile. It's not just about exploring the universe out there, she said, gesturing vaguely upwards. It's about exploring the universe within, and finding someone to explore it with. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. Thank you, Liam, for helping me see that. He reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers, his grip firm and warm. Thank you, Elara, for being brave enough to look. He squeezed her hand gently. This journey, I have a feeling it's going to be the most extraordinary one yet. Elara closed her eyes for a moment, letting the profound happiness wash over her. The night air was cool, but she felt utterly warm, utterly safe, utterly loved. She opened her eyes, gazing once more at the endless expanse above. The stars seemed to wink in agreement, their silent language promising endless possibilities, endless wonders yet to unfold. Their journey indeed was just beginning, stretching out before them like the infinite, star-dusted path of the Milky Way. And with Liam by her side, Elara knew she was ready for every luminous step. Liam's arm tightened, a gentle, reassuring squeeze. He kissed her temple, a soft promise. Always, he murmured. Elara nestled closer, her heart full, a profound peace settling deep within. This was their home, their forever, beneath the infinite, loving stars.